Good afternoon. This is the Transportation Benefit District, and this is Tuesday, September 18, 2018. And by way of introductions, if I can get it all right.
You did.
Far left is Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Bud Blake, and I'm John Hutchings, Marcy Taylor, Clerk of the Board. And then to her right is the Public Works Director, Jennifer Walker. See, I knew it. And Scott Lindblom, well, he's the county engineer. You are that.
Correct.
But what other title you have? You have another title?
Right now, that's it.
That's it. Okay. And so thank you all for being here. And so I look for an approval of the September 18th, 2018 agenda. Or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the agenda for September 18th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes from July 17, 2018.
Yes, I would approve the meeting minutes from July 17th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from July 17, 2018. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. That takes us to number 2 on the agenda, which is the opportunity for the public to address the board. And we're checking to see if anybody has signed up. We're hanging out just a second. We're looking. People are rushing back to the very back to see now. And no one is here. Anybody? Nobody signed up. Does anybody else want to address? Okay, no.
No.
So we're moving on to item number 3, department items. And we have a presentation on the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District Safety and Technology Efforts. And Scott Davis, you're the presenter on this?
That is correct.
All right. You go. You own it now.
All right, Scott Davis, Thurston County Public Works, County Traffic Engineer, and this clicker works here. Oh, there we go. Just a little delay. All right, so this is an informational briefing for the Transportation District Board, and we're just basically going to provide a high-level overview of some of the traffic safety investments that the Public Works Department has done, and possibly where the Transportation Benefit District could actually enhance some of these efforts or advance them. Then we'll transition and talk about transportation technology on the current roadway system and how some examples where the TBD could help advance or support technology use on our roadway system. All right, so first we're going to start off with just a little quiz, just I don't know, for fun, I guess. So do you know how many fatal and serious crashes have occurred in the county roads over the past 5 years?
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. It's okay, you don't have to respond, but you can guess if you
Fatal
like.
and
Well, I'm thinking C.
I'm B.
C.
See? All right, let's find out. Hey, look at that. So we've actually had, 2012 2016, we had 131 fatal and reported serious crashes on the unincorporated county roadways, so just the county roadways, not city or state roads or anything like that.
I have the answer sheet. That's why I got it right. But I would have guessed that anyway.
That's right. That's why we put the extra briefing packet for you. So,
Thank you.
and of those 131, 27 were fatal crashes, and just over 100 were reported serious injury crashes. So, all right. So here's a little bit more on the just general statistics over the past few years. So what we've used to help drive our safety program is using data, and so and it's allowed us to be more successful in getting federal funds. And overall, since 2010, we've seen about a 25% reduction in some of the bad crashes, so the fatal and serious crashes. I'm sorry, yeah. And then, but as you can see on that lower graph, the blue line there is the reported serious crashes. So we have come down, but they've been a little bit more stubborn than the fatal crashes. So they're a little bit harder for us to tackle, I guess, and reduce. But one of the challenges we have with our safety program is we rely on federal funds primarily to advance it. So the program, usually there's a grant every 2 to 3 years, and so more of it's difficult to have more of an annual programmatic process relying on the federal funds versus if we had another source to help advance those on a more regular basis.
you want us to hold questions, Scott, till the very end, or ask as we go along?
You know, it doesn't matter to me, I guess. You can ask questions right now while they're on your mind.
Of the fatal crashes and/or the serious crashes, I know there's a breakdown of the primary cause of the crash, whether it's impaired and/or speed and other things, and adult versus juvenile. Just wondering if you're going to get to that later, or do you have any of that?
Well, I wasn't actually going to report it in this presentation, but probably like most I can get it. I actually have it right here. Most of our crashes, like just probably most counties, a lot of our crashes are the bad, fatal, and serious are run off the road. So, or a lane departure of some sort. And then from an age group standpoint, 16 to 25 is the predominant age group.
Okay.
Speeding impairment are high as well. So
I knew you'd know it. Okay.
I have it here. I don't know the exact percentage
All right.
off the top of my head, but.
Thank you, sir. That's fine. Well, wait, don't go off that slide.
Oh.
Are you going to talk about the highlighted box?
Oh, yeah, I can talk
Thank
about
you.
the highlighted box. I wasn't going to, but I can.
Please.
So over the years, in some of our data-driven efforts and doing the planning studies, Federal Highways has taken what we've done, like our first local road safety plan done in 2012, and written a case study about it. And so it's one of the national noteworthy practices, I guess. And we did that again before we did our high friction surfacing treatment. We'll talk about briefly in a little bit as well. And Federal Highways basically took what we did, put together here in Thurston County and put a case study together again to basically broadcast out a noteworthy practice for a local agency doing safety work in the nation. There's not too many local agencies that get recognized from that perspective. They're mostly state DOTs, so it's a pretty unique recognition. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Mm-hmm. Any other questions at all?
Well, I guess I will ask one other question, because we're talking about safety. Don't we have personnel here in Thurston County that got safety awards because of their work?
I don't know anyone that happened to.
Bless you.
Okay, good enough.
All right, so one of the challenges we've had, and this is one of the reasons why we've been recognized by Federal Highways, and this map's going to be hard for you to see probably, so the larger screen will hopefully help. But anyway, there's a bunch of dots on this map.
Yep.
And it's a there'll be 5 years of crash data on here, and they're fatal crashes. And so this is year 1 and year 2, so you should see a few more dots pop up. And year 3, so there's a handful more. Year 4, and then year 5. And I did this right because I didn't go to the next slide. So sometimes I go a little too far.
Yeah.
So when we apply for federal dollars, the purpose of the federal dollars is to focus on fatal and severe crashes, which reflects the statewide goal of getting to 0 fatalities and serious injuries by 2030. But when we have a map like this and the dots are all over the place, it's really hard to develop a safety plan and tackle that, because you could maybe fix a dot on there, but the next dot's going to be somewhere else, and you have invested a lot of money in one spot and not really made an overall difference in your roadway system. And so some of the traditional methods we've used is looking at maps just like this and looking for clusters of crashes. We've also used what we call crash rates, where you basically have a frequency per mile or per road. But when you look at a map like this, you don't have a frequency unless you have a dot, but the dot could be on the road just down the street and not on the road that you're focusing on. So it makes it really challenging from those traditional approaches. So what we did is we basically embraced a little bit different approach in looking at risk factors instead of focusing solely just on where the crashes are. And so that's what this next slide is. And so we used, at the time we were using it, was a draft document, and then we helped contribute towards its completion. But it's called the Systemic Safety Project Selection Tool. But basically what it is it's like going to the doctor for your physical or wellness check. And so when you go in, you get you may have a blood test to check your cholesterol, you check your weight. But what the doctor is looking for is they're looking for indications that they may have to help you with something before you get sick or before you have some other illness. And we're doing the same thing with our roadway system, and that's really helped us basically become a more proactive instead of reactive, which is really what we hear a lot. I mean, some calls we get are, what's it going to take for you to do something here? Well, the answer is instead of saying we're waiting for a crash, or there's no crashes there, therefore it's safe, the answer is no, we are being proactive, and we're trying to do something before something happens, and that's what we're really trying to do. And so it's a much different message we give to the community, and it also is reflective of how we make our safety investments now, or target our safety investments. So one of our first more data-driven approach, using the more risk-based methodology, we focused on horizontal curves. And the reason why is when we looked at our data, and it was a little bit older than now, it was 2006, 2010, almost 50% of our fatal and serious crashes were reported to be in horizontal curves, which, as you might know, there's a lot of curves, but they're a very small portion of our roadway system. And so we felt if we could make a targeted investment in these specific locations, we could probably make a difference. And we did. We saw in 2 comparison 5-year periods, we saw a 35% reduction in reported fatal and serious crashes in horizontal curves. And during the same study periods, there was an overall reduction in fatal and serious crashes. And this targeted area represented about 70% of that total reduction. So I think we did make a difference at the end of the day. And so, that certainly, I think, helps, and it helps us, also the data helped us leverage some money. So we got a little bit of federal money to help us along the way. So that accelerated our work as well. So.
Is that what we're doing with the high friction surfacing and all that?
Yeah, actually the number in here is reflective
Okay.
of that. Now the data I gave in terms of reduction isn't reflective of the high friction surfacing being on the roadway, because that was just done like literally about a month ago.
So it's even going to get better, is what you're saying, probably.
Why? Yes, I hope so, yes. Crashes are hard to predict, but yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
The information suggests we should get better, but yeah. All right, so how can the TBD help out with roadway safety? Well, one is we have a draft, well, here's a paper copy, but we have a local road safety plan now. It's a draft form. We still got to go edit it and do some other things, but part of what the Transportation Benefit District could do is actually help start implementing this beyond just routine time of maintenance stuff, and not always wait for that federal grant. It could also help leverage federal money. Instead of using some of our road fund dollars, we could use the TBD to leverage this federal funding and reallocate those road fund dollars to other higher priority county projects, or other priority county projects, I shouldn't say higher, but other priority county projects. Traffic calming in neighborhoods, which can help encourage more walking to school, especially if they're around safe routes. And that little map down there, I should have done a better job with that. But that little blue dot you can barely see in the middle of there, that's Johnson Point and Hawks Prairie. The TBD could also help target, high priority safety investments. And that intersection there's a fatality not too long ago out there. It's also a little bit more congested than it used to be. But again, depending on what the board would like to do, if it's funded, there's opportunities obviously to target priority safety investments, maybe bigger than a few signs or high friction surfacing in a location. So.
That's the curve there with the bridge?
Yeah, it's right next to the bridge, yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so this is an example. So this is one example of what the Transportation Benefit District could do. And so these numbers are approximate, so just kind of keep that in mind. But one of the things we could do is put in wide edge lines. So right now, most of the fog lines you see on the roadway are about 4 inches in width. And so what we could do is make them 6 or 8 inches in width. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if you look at the data, that suggests we could have actually a fairly significant reduction in crashes. And as I mentioned earlier, run off the road or lane departure crashes are one of our highest things that happen. And so providing better delineation of roadway can help with that. And so probably for $30,000 or $40,000 just for materials, because we already paint the roads anyway, so just paying for extra materials pretty much. We could see maybe a reduction of 15 to 20% in crashes on the targeted roadways, which, let's see, let me look at the data on here. So at least on the priority roadways in our local road safety plan, let's see, I should have had this memorized here before walking in, but we could see maybe 160 to 220 fewer roadway crashes total, which is pretty significant at the end of the day for some pain on the roadway.
It was significant for the people involved.
Absolutely, especially, and that includes potentially, a reduction of 28 fewer severe crashes. Cars are one thing to fix, but people are a lot harder to fix. And so if we can reduce injuries and severe crashes, that's important as well. So anyway, that's one thing the TPD could help the county in advancing safety on our county roadway system.
How much is an edge line now? Is it like 3 inches and you'd change it to 6?
Yeah, right now the typical edge line is 4 inches, except for the urban areas, we have an 8-inch line typically where there's identified bike lanes. So yeah, we'd go to a 6 or 8-inch edge line. And if you want to see an example, if you're out and about on Gate Road Southwest, between Miami and north of the Little Gate community area, we have a 8-inch edge line through the kind of curvy section through there. So. And we did that for various reasons, but anyway, that's an example of what it might look like in comparison to other areas of the county. So.
And that 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever it would be another 30,000?
Yeah, to add, for about 100 centerline miles of roadway, correct. Yeah, 30 to 40, just materials, because the laborers we're already out there anyway with our paint truck. And the truck's already out there to begin with, so the additional funding would actually physically be for the paint and glass beads. That would be in addition to it. So, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It doesn't seem like much, but it actually can make a difference. So. All right, so we have heard a little bit about high friction surfacing. I don't know if you want to watch the video again, but we can if there's interest.
How long is the video?
30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
wanna see
play it. Yeah, I want the public to see it. Please. Do we need to dim the lights for TCM?
We have popcorn.
Please stand by, people. Okay. We'll have to start it all over anyway, 'cause it's not being televised just yet. Yeah. Okay, now we're on. Now we're on. Yeah. Didn't you get to paint some of the county roads, Gary? On one of your...
Oh, I went out one time on that kind of a deal, but we didn't do 8 inches, I don't think.
Thank you, Scott.
We could, yeah. Okay, so that was the video of high friction surfacing, and so that video was made by a public relations firm called DH, and they're out of Spokane. This was done through the Washington State Traffic Safety Commission. So the Traffic Safety Commission paid for the development of the video, as well as the advertisement that went on several different social media type sites. So this ad ran for about a month. It just ended last week. It was a paid ad. And we had almost 90,000 unique Facebook and Instagram users that watched the ad. So not like me watching it like 90,000 times, but unique folks for for almost 500,000 views. So that means each one of those people watched it a few times. Maybe not all of it, but some of it anyway. And I'm not sure if you know what they also bought advertisement on, I guess, over-the-top television, which is basically like an Xbox or the Apple TV. And so what it does is that you buy ad space on those. So if you're watching, like in this case, like MajorLeagueBaseball.com, and you have paid for that, this ad will actually run during those games whenever the normal ads run. So we had over 16,000 viewers, unique people who watched the ad there, and they watched the ad total of almost 130,000 times, and almost 100% of them watched the whole way through. So they apparently were into the ad or wanted to get back to baseball. I'm not sure, but you know, that's a lot of people who viewed this ad over a very short period of time, really. If you think in the amount of the population, it was targeted specifically in Thurston County, so you had to be in Thurston County to see it. So it wasn't broadcast, you know, unless someone shared it to someone else outside the county. It was targeted at folks within Thurston County itself. Also during that time, which was interesting, is because we haven't really done much analytics on our own website, but clicking onto our high friction surfacing project website was about 70% of the traffic that we had on the Public Works website during this time period as well. So in terms of outreach and getting community to see something that we're up to, I think that was pretty successful. You know, just like anything, there was a lot of comments. We had, well, just in terms of Facebook statistics, we had about 600 likes, almost 190, almost 200 comments, 160 shares, so people sharing the information and sending it to someone else. And probably like much in social media, you know, comments are kind of a mixed bag probably. You know, so we had positive and negative comments, of course.
Who's complaining? I'm curious what kind of.
Well, I'll mention a few of I'll mention the few of the themes from the, you know, more of the complaining, or maybe concerns, maybe. I won't say complaining necessarily, but concerns. But one of them was, well, I shouldn't say a lot of, well, there was confusion whether this was a chip seal. You know, we're just repackaging it as chip seal. So that was sort of some confusion. So that's kind of a lesson learned, is maybe we need to do a little bit more, little bit more education in a future ad if we do something like this again, to make a more clear difference in what this material is. There's also folks concerned about tire wear, because it is a more rough, coarse surface, as you noted, and so there's folks worried about that. And so one thing to note in terms of the high friction surfacing is it's a spot treatment. You don't put it everywhere. So like chip seal, you'll see miles of road done across the county, whereas high friction surfacing, you're going to see it at a curve or maybe right at an intersection, but very localized treatment. So in terms of tire wear or anything related to that, you know, it's going to be very localized, and most folks probably aren't going to drive over it every single day. I mean, I don't, but again, it's something that in your ordinary travels, it's just not, you're not going to be hitting it for very long in your tires. So tire wear probably really isn't an issue. But that was one of the more common ones. There was other folks concerned, you know, if they fall, bicyclists, motorcyclists, if they fell or something like that. And yeah, it is rough. It's going to hurt if you fall. But anything on the pavement is probably going to hurt if you fall. Now, having said that, with the bicycle community or people who use the shoulders of the roadway, we only treated the travel lane itself. We didn't treat the shoulders. Okay. So the shoulders do not have any of this treatment at all. And most bicycles are riding out there. At least I would anyway. But you know, so having said that, though, you're gonna grip that road a lot better when you're going around that curve or stopping. So it should have an overall benefit, at least for the motorized users on the roadway. So, I'm gonna take a quick look at the locations, and I realize that map's kind of small. But we did 26 locations, and then based on national experience, and as you actually saw in the ad, we expect to see, and we say expect because, again, we can't predict all this stuff, but we expect to see about 126 fewer crashes at these locations over the next 5 years. So then that'll be our performance measure as we moving forward. Are we seeing reduction at these spots going forward, and what that reduction is? It could be greater, it could be lower. But anyway, that's roughly what we expect. You know, there has been, not necessarily on the ad, but there are some questions about, you know, how long the material will last. And it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on traffic volume, the type of traffic. Depends on how well it was installed, too. But generally speaking, the friction values and sealing the pavement, you know, should last, you know, 7 to 12 years. However, some lab testing would indicate that on even our highest volumes roads, this material should last 20 years or more. Now, that's probably not likely because the underlying pavement's probably going to fail before that, which means this material will fail as well. So like one of the installations the county staff did, it was in 2014 by Lacamas Elementary School. You know, the areas where it's starting to fail in there is where the underlying roadway is starting to crack. So the material's good, but the underlying roadway is starting to fail. So again, one of the limiting factors of this material is really the road itself. So we did, so as part of that, we actually did do some prep work in some locations where we need to make sure we had a good roadway surface to put the material on to begin with. And I should note too, you know, and actually as the video did, we have been trained, you know, by national experts to actually do some maintenance work on this stuff too. So programmatically, if there's issues that come up, you know, we can take care of them, and programmatically do replacements and other things of that as well. So. All right, so we're going to transition to technology. Probably won't spend as much time here as we did on the safety portion, but right here, just this slide, it shows just some of the stuff that we have out there right now. We have a lot of school beacons, as you probably know. We have some flashing stop signs at a few locations. We have a few speed feedback signs and some enhanced crosswalks, I guess. And so and we also have what's hard to see, because these are things you can see, but in our traffic signal systems on Martin Way, we have some controllers in there that will help, I guess, or that our transit friends to get priority if they need to go through our traffic signal systems. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So what does technology do? And really, technology, it can help improve travel time reliability. If you're talking about our signal systems, it can improve safety, and improve the information that we actually get as motorists, as you might see on the Interstate 5 or some of those other areas. And so we're going to take a look at some examples. So really, the technology piece enhances what we talked about earlier. And we've heard about preservation, we've heard about safety. The technology aspects actually helps further enable all those to be successful. So one example where a TPD could help out, or investment could help out using some technology, is Malandro underpassing. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. It's a low crossing. It's about a little over 12 feet. We have it signed for 12 feet. It gets hit frequently by especially box trucks. I think Google helps us out with that, unfortunately. But anyway, there's been 34 crashes there since 2010. 91% of those are trucks hitting the railroad bridge. That one spot represents 20% of the crashes on Mullen Road, which is a 4-mile-long roadway. That's pretty significant for one spot. So if you're talking about the map we saw earlier, you're talking about clusters, well, this is a cluster, not bad crashes, but crashes in themselves that impact the people who are on our transportation system.
And our engineering department also is critical in alleviating all the flooding that happens every season.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep. Scott's the other part of our team. The other part of Scott's team helped with the flooding, and we did some. And then our maintenance team did some paving work out there, and that's helped out. I mean, it's something that's probably ongoing because we've done that before. But again, that's the flooding's been significant now there as well on that roadway.
Great job, Scott. Thank you.
So one of the things here is we can use an overheight warning system, and I don't know if you've seen these before, but basically they're lasers is basically a beam that goes across the roadway. You set it at a certain elevation, and you detect anything that's going over that height. And then you have some active warning systems that are telling that driver that they need to do something different than what they're doing. Now it's passive because it doesn't physically stop anyone, but again, it's a warning system that's more active and active specifically to what's going on out there right now. Because we do have signs, we have great signing actually for that. We have a beacon on one of them, but it's not quite getting there. So this is really that next step that one would take probably to help look and do something with that. Then another location is.
Hey Scott, how far ahead of the bridge is it located? Looks like it's right on top of it.
That lower picture?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just that's a picture out of a periodical. That's not Thurston County.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of like what the sign might look like. So, but yeah, we would have it further ahead. We'd have it ahead of like where the next logical turnaround would be. So if they do go past it, they know they just need to look for that next turn, and that turn or road would be there for them. Yeah. But yeah, something like this it's not cheap, so it costs a little bit of money. One of the challenges for us on this one is that since we're not having serious injuries or any fatals, which is really good, but it makes it harder to use the federal safety funds in a location like this because of it. But anyway, it could benefit quite a few folks that use our county roadway system.
Scott?
Is this on? Yeah.
When you talk about it makes it harder to use the federal money, yes. What do they have, a penalty process if you have too many accidents? They give you the dickens, or what's?
No, they don't. They don't have a penalty. It just the national as well as the state focuses on fatal and serious crashes. And so what they're looking for us when we apply for money is focusing on those types of crashes. So in here, it's a unique location in and itself, but since there's not the bad crashes there, it's more difficult to get funding. It's not that we can't, but it's more difficult.
Is there any benefit there that we could include the fact that it's a railroad overpass and, you know, that's the super utility thing, and possibly get some more funding to fix that if the railroad folks would work with us?
Yeah, and I have had some initial conversations with the railroad, and so yeah, that would be one of my next calls once we get a design done and some costs is situated, seeing where they might be able to help us out. And yeah, would I look to see if I can get some money through the state? Yes, I would. Yeah, but I wouldn't exhaust all resources, I guess. But,
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, just because it's more difficult doesn't mean you don't try, but it just, you know, you have to understand some of the limitations of the funding. Okay, so the other thing that Transportation Benefit District could assist with over time as well is signal priorities, or what we call smart corridors. So we actually started this project quite a while ago, but there's some upcoming phases. And so what smart corridors was just our own regional terminology for improving the reliability of our transit system on our major corridors. And I mean major corridors, ones that have the most frequent transit service, and they're going to be more high-density residential commercial areas. And so what that does is so if a bus is, you know, because reliability is important. Anytime we go somewhere, we want to, especially if we're using transit, you know, making sure that bus gets there on time and gets to its locations on time is important to make an attractive option, but also an option you can count on. And so what the signal priority does for transit systems is if a bus is coming in and it's just a little late, it can send a signal to the traffic signal, and it extends that green ball for a little while longer so it can get through the intersection. So it's not used all the time, but again, it's used some of the time when it's necessary. There's a few phases coming along. Martin Way through downtown Olympia, as well as going down into Capitol Boulevard through Tumwater is the initial priority areas for this. And so some of the technology has already been put in place in terms of the technology in the traffic control cabinets. The next phase is getting the IT and intercity transit dialed in and make sure their onboard technology in their buses is ready to go so we can actually program the signals and make this work. So their first priority is Olympia, because that's the worst congestion for them, and then it'll start branching out from there where it starts targeting Thurston County signals, and you know, eventually we'll be looking at Yum Highway. Right now it's Martin Way. So let's see, I think that's, oh wait, this is the one I'm not talking about because it's kind of a little embarrassing for me to talk about, but anyway.
I wouldn't say it's embarrassing.
Oh, great. So, as you pointed out, we do have an award winner in our midst, and I'd just like to take a moment to recognize Scott. So, as you're aware, Scott Davis received the David Brand Safety Award recently. And a little bit of background on David Brand himself. Throughout his career, David Brand was a champion of local road safety on the national level. He was one of, if not the most revered local safety advocates. He was always everyone's first choice to serve in an advisory capacity in this issue. Dave was the Madison County, Ohio engineer and Northeast Vice President for the National Association of County Engineers. He was honored in 2013 by FHWA Deputy Administrator for his work on the Everyday Counts initiative, which you've probably heard about here at the local level. Dave was recognized for success on the Safety Edge program, for which he led the 3-year process involving federal, state, and local stakeholders. Dave's insight into local practices were instrumental to developing the outreach materials for local agencies, such as Thurston County. The award itself recognizes an individual who's followed in Dave's footsteps, having a positive influence on the safety of the local, regional, and state, national levels. At the April 25, 2018 annual meeting of the National Association of County Engineers in Wisconsin, Thurston County's own Scott Davis, our traffic engineering and operations manager, was awarded the David Brand Safety Award in recognition of his tireless efforts to promote road safety and for his dedication to keeping our citizens and road crews safe. This is a very prestigious award. It's the only the second time given the award, or anyone's been given the award. And it's for a unique individual that demonstrates a unique difference at the national level, combining a dynamic mix of sound science, proven engineering skills, as well as people skills. The award is considered a Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing that person's efforts to join forces with other organizations to build partnerships with the goal of improving safety performance and eliminating fatalities and serious injuries. Thank you to your support for helping with the nomination itself. I certainly want to recognize Scott for his outstanding achievements. We are very fortunate to have him working for Thurston County Public Works, and I wanted to make that point. He's in our midst, and we're very fortunate to have him, and we look forward to many more years of work with Scott.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good job, Scott.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Did we keep that secret long enough? I remember when this was all coming about. Did we ever trick him?
Yes, we did. I had people swear to secrecy, and the fun part was I was videoing him at the reception in which it was offered. So I have a video of him as they're starting to announce the award. My phone camera is on him, so I can use that to blackmail him in the future. It's going to be quite fun.
Yeah, I can say it was definitely a surprise.
Yes, go ahead, Gary.
When it comes to safety issues, what kind of a result do we get from, say, out at, I'll just use Four Corners as an example. They've got those yield signs for right turns.
Right.
Do we get a reduction in accidents and the money spent versus just a yield sign, you know, which might not be quite as effective as those lane adjustments? And I just wonder, we're always trying to prevent use of too much fuel, and one of our strategies is to reduce carbon fuel consumption, and using just yield signs in general where they're safe, not just anywhere, but where they would be safe. So could you comment a little bit on the more enhanced yield signs, maybe, if they, what kind of a percentage of reduction we're expected to see, and then maybe yield signs that could be placed for fuel consumption reduction and possibly safety as well if they were utilized right, just in those safe places.
Yeah,
Before you answer that, though, Scott,
yes.
I don't want to get too far from the award.
Oh,
So I just want to
oh,
say
we're
something
going
about
to-
the award as
oh,
well. But do
okay,
you have anything to
and
say?
then we'll go back to work. Okay.
I want to tell you how appreciative I am to have you here, and the folks in this county should be very appreciative as well that we have someone of your caliber, and that's not only recognized but that's doing the work for safety here in Capital County, at Thurston County. Don't plan on leaving.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. It's easy when you work with a great team and great public works department and great leadership. It makes everything easy, I guess. Let's just put that
Yeah.
way. So,
And
thank you.
Scott, for mentoring.
Thank
All right,
you.
go ahead, Gary. Now go ahead and answer now.
No, just
Okay,
see,
yeah, so
is there-
I'll talk about a little bit about Four Corners specifically. So you're familiar with that area. You're familiar, there's been crashes there over the years as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest difference we had out there is actually adding those yield signs to those right turns, but also when we put those islands out there and put the stop signs closer to the truck, your line of sight when you're approaching that. It was interesting, I mean, ideally, if we were doing it now, we probably would looked at a roundabout, probably. But moving those stop signs closer to that through travel lane, I think made a huge difference. Because before, for those who recall that intersection, the stop signs were probably 30 plus feet off to the right-hand side. And so if you're driving down the road at 50 miles an hour, you might be seeing it, but you may not, especially for those who might not be familiar with the area or for whatever reason aren't paying attention. And so I can't say explicitly on that really, but there was a noticeable difference when we made those improvements there and put those islands out there. Had the yields to the right, but also that stop sign really close to that through travel lane. And we've added beacons since then, of course. The yield signs in general, there's probably the best place for those really are, where you can have a free, safe movement. And those are really more specific. So, in terms of fuel consumption, probably subdivisions are the best place to use those because you don't need to stop all the time, especially on shorter, dead-end cul-de-sacs, things like that. And we don't do those a lot. I think everyone's standard practice is always put up a stop sign. You always put up a stop sign. But yield signs work actually pretty well in there because that's how most people drive for the most part. And it still provides, and it still provides for the safety because it tells you to stop really for all practical purposes if there's something else going on. On more major roadways, you're really looking for those turn lanes kind of things, like you see down at Four Corners or at a traffic signal. Those where they really work well more from a capacity standpoint and a safety standpoint. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to improve safety. It doesn't always have to be something really expensive either. So, and good use of signs is not a bad way to improve something. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, that was it. So I didn't perfectly answer your question, I know, but.
How about when you talk about signage in general, what's the benefit of a speed limit sign that has a flasher that kind of gives your speed limit or gives your individual speed? Do we get adequate reduction from that type of an investment?
Yeah, I could give you some statistics with that too, but like I'll just there's a few locations that we've done those in. There's two things we've done. We have on Rainier Road coming into the city of Lacey, we have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. It has some lights around it. So we saw in our initial count after we put that in about roughly a 4% reduction in our not 4%, 4-mile-an-hour reduction in the prevailing speed after that was put in, which is actually pretty significant at the end of the day. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually really is because that means it's affecting quite a few people. And then we've done the speed feedback signs, which display your speed to you. They might flash and do some other stuff. When we first put them in at Evergreen Elementary School on Marvin Road, we saw about a 17% reduction in speeds, which is actually, again, that's a fairly big number. So yeah, they do have a difference. City of Bellevue's been using speed feedback signs for ages, and they've seen sustained reductions of varying amounts, of course, because every road's a little different over long periods of time. So yeah, they do have impacts, and statistically across the nation, all those kinds of electronic signs do have an impact. The challenge is once you put those things out there, it's something else you're taking care of because you're going to give a battery to check every now and again or some other things like that. But yeah, they do have an impact. We put some lighted. We did some turn lanes at Martin Way and Meridian Roadway a few years ago, but we're still getting crashes. Folks going through the stop sign on Mullen Road, and so we went out and observed and did some traffic counts, did some other stuff, and let's try some lighted stop signs. The little red lights around it. Sure enough, that pretty much solved the problem. And so yeah, you can do a lot with a little bit. You don't have to rebuild the intersection to make a difference, I guess. So yeah, that's where that technology piece comes in place. But once you put it there, you got to take care of it too, because you want to sustain that investment. You don't want to do it for 3 years and then throw it away. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. But
Sure. With all the other technologies, is there plans for a TBD app?
A TBD app. I don't know. I'll turn that over to my esteemed colleagues.
wow,
Okay, Steve.
there's an app for that.
That's actually a really good question. I think we'd have to look into
Yeah.
that a little bit more. But I certainly think that as we look at other ways of communicating and sharing information, especially what Scott showed with the high friction surface video and the amount of hits that got, which is really our effort in communicating and reaching more people, which is what we're trying to do, to talk about the efforts that we're making here for them.
That's a good question. Yeah, look up with the PIOs. Any other questions?
Oh, I'm good.
I have two, and they're fairly easy. When it comes to fatals or near fatal crashes, do our county engineers or traffic engineers go out and assist TCSO or WSP on those?
Not direct. I mean, sometimes with traffic control. So I mean, directly when the incident's occurring, or just after it's occurred, I guess. And then what we do is generally it's afterwards. We'll come back and video the area, and then just do basically kind of a rapid assessment of the traffic control devices, pavement markings, and all those sorts of things. And so if there's something that we need to do, regardless if it's related to the crash, it's something that we can address. So.
Okay, so it's a learning experience for us
Yeah.
to take away. Okay.
Yep.
And the Diamond Divergent intersection, the DDI or interchange coming into Lacey, I'm going to presume that we have nothing to do with that. It'll be Lacey and DOT?
That's correct.
Okay, but we'll probably go by and learn and look and curiosity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll be driving through it, I guess.
It'll
I'll
be
say
like a
that.
magnet for you guys, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they've been used successfully in other areas in the nation, just because of the way they operate. Everything essentially becomes a right turn instead of a left turn, so left turns become right turns.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, your operating system has become much more simplified and you can move more cars through there. But it's going to be, it's like roundabouts were, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's going to be a learning experience for all of us to travel through that. That's
When
for
do they
sure.
start with that?
Huh?
When do they start with that?
Boy, I don't know the exact date.
Well, months.
I believe they're going out to bid this year, I think.
Summer, right?
Yeah, so
Of
I
next
believe there's some utility companies already doing work out there right now. So, but yeah, fairly soon.
I'm actually meeting with them in a week or two to talk about the timing and then also impacts to the operations at the Waste and Recovery Center, because there will be some impacts there that we're going to need
Very good point.
to work through.
Any other questions? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, watching at home, that was Public Works Director Jennifer Walker. I know you real well. I know your name real well, and I'm embarrassed. I could not remember. I just froze on your last name. It wasn't
I didn't
turned my
have it
way.
turned towards you.
All
My
right.
apologies.
So thank you very, very much for that. With that, that's the end of the TBD meeting.
May I say just
Oh,
a couple
please,
of
I'm
things?
sorry.
Mr. President?
See, and
That's
I
okay.
blew it again.
Thank you. So I just want to highlight kind of what we've been doing and where we're going from here. So we've talked a lot about what a TBD, what a transportation benefit district could do. And the reason we're talking about that is that for all the things that can do, those are the things that aren't getting done as well, right? So as we have some of these other projects, other items that are putting pressure on the road fund, that's impacting our preservation. So when we start talking about concurrency and the cost of those projects and just the cost of doing business and delivering on projects, the levy shift, road diversion, all of those things, of course, are having an impact on the road fund. And that's why we're talking about the Transportation Benefit District and what the things are that we can do. So what we heard from the board about a month or two ago was they wanted some feedback from the citizens about the Transportation District and their thoughts on that. So we have started that process. For the month of October, we'll be doing a survey and outreach talking about what it is that the Transportation Benefit District could do, and then also just what some of their priorities are. So we were just working on the questions today, so that'll be going out. We'll be talking about that, just more of our effort and the work plan of a Transportation Benefit District next month, and then November will be the actual results of the survey. Did you want to add anything to that? Okay.
Go ahead, Gary.
Jennifer is Director of Public Works over there. Do you go out and meet with different community organizations and tell them about your activities and the potential activities that could be involved, road work and such, like, Rotaries and Chamber of Commerce or Economic Development Council? Do you meet with some of those folks and try to spread the word, so to speak, of the good work that you do?
We have. I think that we made a large effort the last go-around. One of the things that we're working on right now is our internal messaging and making sure that what we're communicating is all in alignment. I think having the county strategic plan just finalized and being able to align with that is quite helpful.
Okay.
That's a good point, though. We need to sell ourselves, but people just don't realize how much Public
Absolutely
Works does.
tell our story. Yes.
And some of this, I'd like to see this presentation done with our PRO people and get the word out.
App.
Okay, there'll be an app for this
App.
later on, folks.
Commissioner Blake, anything?
Good, thank you.
All right. Anything we're all done then?
No, thank you very much.
Welcome. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I would move to adjourn the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District meeting of Tuesday, September 18th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.